The Resilience Across Borders podcast is intended to be a resource for education, support, and inspiration. I am not a psychologist or a medical doctor and do not offer any professional, medical, or health advice. If you are dealing with or suffering from any psychological or medical conditions, please seek help from a qualified health professional. Hello, and welcome back to Resilience Across Borders podcast. I am your host, Rashid Zahidi. So, in today's fast-paced and interconnected world, it's easy to find ourselves caught in the grip of overwhelming thoughts, overwhelming emotions, to-do lists, tasks, projects, demands, and so on. So, whether it's work-related, stress, personal responsibilities, or simply the constant bombardment of information, feeling overwhelmed is a common experience. However, dealing with overwhelm is not impossible, and there are effective strategies to help you regain balance and control your life. In this episode, we'll explore practical tips to manage overwhelm and restore a sense of peace and a sense of productivity. Starting with the following step. First, you have to recognize and acknowledge overwhelm. The first step in dealing with overwhelm, or any problem for that matter, is to recognize and acknowledge its presence. Just like the first step in anything, just recognize it first and understand it first. Recognize that there is a problem and then set out to really identify it and get to its core. And what is it really? What does it mean? Why? What is the strongest or most disturbing feeling about it? And what is it really in its essence and at its core? So often we tend to brush off these feelings, thinking they will resolve on their own. However, ignoring overwhelm can exacerbate the situation and eventually lead to burnout. Take a moment to pause and honestly assess your emotions and your thoughts. Are you feeling exhausted? Are you feeling anxious? Are you able to focus or not able to focus? Acknowledging you are overwhelmed is crucial before you can take meaningful steps to address it. I personally use pen and paper and do a brain dump as one of my favorite strategies, just to get stuff out of my head first and to make sense of it and to think through it. So, identify the source of overwhelm. Pinpointing the sources of overwhelm is key to developing effective and targeted solutions. Make a list of the various areas in your life that are causing stress and that are causing anxiety. It could be an excessive workload, it could be unresolved conflict, it could be financial concerns, it could be conversations that should take place, it could be a cluttered living space. So by identifying these triggers, you can devise a specific plan or specific strategies to tackle each one effectively and, so to say, divide and conquer. Which lead me to my next strategy or step you can take, which is to prioritize. And if you have the ability to delegate, if you have the ability to, of course, you have to eliminate if anything that needs to be eliminated. You have to start there and eliminate it. Sometimes we just think we need to do all of these things, but upon a closer look, some of those things can just be discarded. They don't need to be done, or maybe they are not important right now. So prioritize. When you're feeling overwhelmed, it's essential to prioritize tasks and responsibilities. Break down your to-do list into smaller, manageable tasks and focus on what's truly urgent and important. Not just urgent, but urgent and important. Because there's going to be stuff that's important, there's going to be stuff that's urgent, and there's going to be stuff that's both. So that's probably what's going to rise up to the top of your list. Learn to delegate tasks whenever possible if you have that luxury. Whether at work or home. And remember that seeking help is not a sign of weakness, but a smart way to share the burden and prevent burnout. The other thing you can do is to practice mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness and meditation come up a lot here. because they are powerful tools in dealing with everything, but also specifically in dealing with overwhelm. Taking time each day to engage in mindfulness practices can help you stay present, help you reduce anxiety, and increase your ability to handle stress. Just because you practice this sense of calming down yourself, of gaining perspective, of creating space between you and different stimuli or different triggers and things like that. So you're just actually have the time to, kind of ponder and look at things and reflect, instead of just being at the mercy of all these triggers and just being lost in that craziness, and you're just reacting without thinking. So meditation can clear your mind, allowing you to gain perspective and approach challenges with a calmer mindset. Also remember to focus on what you can control. This is something I myself remind myself of every day. For instance, when I'm in traffic, because I can get frustrated with other drivers who are just not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I have to constantly remind myself I have no control over that. People are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to be on their phones and they're going to drive, and it's going to drive me crazy. But I have to remind myself to focus on what I can control. The other point is to set boundaries. One common reason for feeling overwhelmed is lack of boundaries. Learn to say no. So learn to say no to additional commitments that might overload your schedule. I believe it was Jim Rohn who said, don't let your mouth overload your back. So make sure you learn to say no. Set realistic expectations for yourself and for others, and communicate your limits, your priorities, communicate your limited availability clearly by establishing these boundaries. So by establishing these boundaries, you will protect your time, you will protect your energy, allowing you to focus on what truly matters to you and what matters for you. The other thing you can do is to break tasks into manageable chunks. When faced with a mountain of tasks, it's easy to feel paralyzed by the sheer volume of work and the complexity. So to combat this feeling, you break down tasks into smaller, more achievable chunks. And then you celebrate your progress with each completed subtask and use it as motivation to keep going or to get and keep the momentum. This approach not only helps you manage overwhelm, but also enhances your productivity. If you want more examples on this and some other additional techniques, see my episode that's called ORT, Overcome Resistance. I talk a little bit more about like that and the compound effect and just breaking things into smaller steps and just getting going, getting started. Number 7, I wasn't really counting, but I think I had listed about 6 so far. So let's call this one number 7. If it's not, I'm sorry. So it's engaged in physical activity. Regular physical activity is not just beneficial for your physical health, but also for your mental well-being. Because motion does have an effect on our thoughts. Exercise releases endorphins, which are natural mood boosters and also stress relievers. Whether it's a quick walk or a brisk walk, it's a yoga session or a gym workout, find an activity that you enjoy and make it a part of your daily routine. I take walks, I take out my bicycle, and just do that. Sometimes just go up the stairs a couple of times, and that's enough to get me going. So, feeling overwhelmed is a natural response to life's challenges, but it doesn't have to consume us. By recognizing, acknowledging, and addressing the sources of overwhelm, we can take control of our lives and find a healthier balance. So remember to prioritize tasks, set boundaries, and practice mindfulness to stay centered and stay focused. With consistent effort and self-compassion, you can conquer overwhelm and create a more harmonious and fulfilling life. So remember, divide, prioritize, and execute, or delete anything that doesn't need to be done. Delegate, then do what's left. And again, only if it really needs to be done. As always, thank you for tuning into the Resilience Across Borders podcast. If you are enjoying this podcast and finding it helpful to you, please let us know so we can continue to make more episodes about these topics. You can do that by leaving a review, subscribing if it's one of these platforms that, where you show the feedback is by subscription. I believe that is the likes of YouTube or so. leaving a comment, or sharing with others who need to hear it. And as always, remember to be kind to yourself and be kind to others and to stay resilient.